right, hello and welcome to another workshop with me, Big Mish Movement, doing some foot mobility today. It's been a while since I've done this, just different things happening in life and so forth, so I got a little off track. But I'm back, we're in quarantine, we're going to be in quarantine for a while, or at least I will be, so might as well do more workshops to help you. I completely forgot it's 4th of July today, so we'll make today kind of quick. If you are joining me, thanks. If you're checking me out later, thanks. But for now, let's just talk about the feet, because the feet are very important. And if you are going out for a 4th of July walk or anything, maybe you can start thinking about how your feet move, how they feel. Do they feel good? Do they don't feel good? And there's different things we want to pay attention to, because the feet are really important to reacting to the ground. As far as a posture, what a posture tells us, the feet and it does just as much what the posture tells us about the feet as it does about the face with what's going on with the body. So when we have different things going on with the feet, a lot of foot problems, it usually shows that there's a lot of problems in terms of movement and handling movement throughout the body. We're going to go over like maybe 8 exercises today, all functional stuff to help you make your feet move a lot better, help you react to the ground a little bit better and for some functional strength, and start connecting some chains, because this is all about movement. You have to move well. The feet were designed to help you move, and when there's problems and dysfunctions there, it kind of radiates throughout the chain. So when we can strengthen a weakened area in the chain, sometimes the feet don't have to work as hard. I'm going to answer 2 questions that I got today. Oh, not today, but I got about this session. First one, hammer toes. So, just to give you brief information, hammer toes is when your sort of toes are kind of curled in. Not so much your big toe, but more so the second one or all of them from there on. Couple of things. Again, posture is usually all your systems working together. So when we see some awkward posture, we have to really consider a long timeline of what went wrong. It's not necessarily something happened recently. So as much as we want to blame shoes, which I do think shoes are a big problem. If you have narrow shoes and they clump up your toes, you're in them all the time, naturally your toes aren't going to have healthy movement to move, and they're going to kind of acquire this cramped position. But that's not really all of what it is. You have to consider your whole timeline. And one thing that the human body will do, it will look for stability where it does not have some. So when we, again, have a weakness in the chain, and usually it starts with the hips. When we have a weakness in the chain, the feet, which is the first thing to touch the ground, the feet, which is the first thing to interpret the ground, as I said in this post, where the feet are so important, they interpret the ground. When we don't have stability up in the chain, those toes are going to grasp a lot. Now go figure, you're in your white timeline, you're going through a lot of steps throughout your lifetime, billions of steps even. Your toes and feet are going to try and compensate for what you don't have otherwise. So that could be probably a more logistical reason, and I think shoes don't help at all, which is why we're going to do some of the stuff we're going to do today to help you get out of that. But it's also considered a bit of a genetic thing as well, but if you consider genetics, that's usually ties into with stability, and that's just saying some consciousness, as we'll talk about. The other question, so hopefully that kind of clears it up, and the exercises that we'll do will also help, because understanding is always key. The other question was about plantar fasciitis, the big one. I'm sure anybody that's watching this is probably suffering from plantar fasciitis at some point, and they want relief. Okay, so why we have plantar fasciitis? Yeah, inflammation, overuse of that area. Again, so we're talking about a weakness in the chain somewhere up, some of which we'll address. I'm not going to be able to address every weakness, and we don't know where your weakness is. So for some people, it might actually even be with the calf itself. They're not getting enough calf power, so the plantar fascia is in overdrive. More often than not, we're looking again up here in the hips. So that's why I'm going to do a bit of a hip integrative exercise later. However, I think it's just important to understand plantar fasciitis. Yeah, it's an overuse, but an underused elsewhere. So we have to address somewhere else in the system if you want that plantar fascia to settle down. Number two, another reason it could happen is from over lateralization of the human body to one side, which is gonna happen. The human body is by no means ever equal. As much as we think we have 2 feet, 2 arms, you know, our brain function, our breathing system, our visual system, nothing is gonna make us be truly equal. That is the beauty of life, is trying to find some balance. And when we don't find balance, we tend to become very lateralized and shifted to one side. So when that happens, that also will put a lot of stress on your plantar fascia, and that could be causing it to kick up. Everything kind of goes hand in hand, because when you train yourself properly, you train and you bring yourself into more balanced state, things tend to like unwind. So all problems kind of go hand in hand, but they usually, you know, there's different routes you can take for dysfunction. Let's get into some movement now and actually start to tackle these problems, shall we? Okay, I said in the list a couple of things you should need. A golf ball or a hard ball. Lacrosse ball works. Tennis ball is a little too soft. And why? Because we will start with releasing the foot. I also suggested having some towels or some padding for your knee. I would like a yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, get a textbook. A thick textbook. This is an important one, especially for hammer toe people. You really want to use it for that exercise. And one of the more important features, get a piece of card or a couple of pieces of paper. We're going to fold it up to the max, so it creates this little mini wedge. Okay, the card is better because it's stronger and it has a little spring to it, because we're going to slide that into our arch and do different foot movements, where you want to be able to flatten your arch, create an arch, flatten your arch, create an arch. This is not ideal. We'll talk about the exercise when we get to it, but most important is your foot is meant to move. It is meant to react to the ground, interpret the ground. And that's why I encourage a lot of barefoot activities. My last point before we get into it. Barefoot activities are so important. Actually, while I'm talking about that, we're going to start. So grab your ball, and we're going to start by releasing the feet. I need to adjust these cameras. Yeah. Oops, that's gonna catch that. All right. Okay. So back up a bit. You can stand or you can sit. It doesn't matter. But we're gonna find the middle of the foot and just place the ball and just hold. This is the dead middle of the foot, like right around here. Just press and hold, and you want your foot to sink in. About 5 seconds. Good. Forward 5, and we'll move it 1 to 2 inches down, so now you're dead in the middle, the thickest part. You just press and hold, and you need this muscle to calm down. So going back to my point, I really recommend a lot of barefoot activities. Working out barefoot is key. Try to work out barefoot as much as you can. Slide down to the last spot. You're just above the heel now. Just above the heel, press and hold. If you can go on walks barefoot, I know it's not the most comfortable thing, but the more we can be barefoot on the ground, the better it is. The feet just need sometimes to get out of our shoes, get out of these flat surfaces and walk on uneven surface, just to regain some of that reactivity. Now we're going to do drag our foot. So we're going to drag our foot down the ball. We'll go 3 lines. We'll go medial line, midline, and outer. So place your foot on the ball, okay? And then you're just gonna drag it up slowly. Take your time. Work that inner arch, so maybe dig your foot in a little bit, turn your foot in, and slide through. Now you go to the midline, press, all the way through to the heel, and now to the outer line, press down, drag it up. Now you could repeat that. I'm just going to do that 1 time, 1, 2, 3, but I would go 2 times optimally. So 1, 2, 3, and then another 1, 2, 3. And then I like to finish off with a side to side, like dead through the middle of the foot, just side to side friction. That really softens up the whole plantar fascia area and your arch. This is crucial. Step 1, you got to tone down the muscle tension. So that's why we get a hard ball. Usually the harder the better. Okay. And if it's too much, you just start with a pressure hold ease into drags, and then friction is the best way to finish. So we'll do that on the other foot. Right this sort of mid-foot area or forefoot area, we're just gonna press and hold about 5 seconds. I'm gonna sit down so you guys can actually see me. Okay. Drag it up one, now you're right in the midfoot and just press and hold. Beach is a great place here if we're here in Southern California. So I know some people who are listening aren't, but if you can go on a beach, great place, lots of uneven surfaces that your foot has to get used to, and it's generally a nicer place to walk barefoot. Go to now just above the heel, press and hold. And obviously in grass, I like to work out a lot in grass, and I always try to be barefoot as much as possible for that. Be careful of bees. I don't want to step on bees, but just being barefoot is just better for us. We're just in shoes too much, and we're on man-made surfaces too much. So connect with nature, bottom line. Okay, now we're going on to the drag. So now medial to the midline, down to straight the middle of the foot, to now outer. Remember, we can repeat those 1, 2, 3 one more time, and but I'm just going to keep it moving, and we'll go side to side, just to sort of knead out that plantar fascia. I don't do this much anymore because my muscle tension's in an alright place. But that's because I have all this whole system that helps me. So if you don't have an integrated system, if you don't have chains that are working well together or strong stability, you'll release this spot, but it'll probably tighten up, and it won't ease up until it gets the support it needs. So part of that is what we're going to go into. Now we're just going to, using this golf ball, it doesn't matter if you can or you cannot, I want you to try and pick it up with your toes. So now we're going to, with your toes, going into a little bit of grasping motion. So your toes might be a little sweaty, so mine are, so I'm not really doing a good job, but that doesn't really matter. If you just look right here, just a sheer act of trying to pick up the ball and create a nice arch. And then I just pick it up and just drop it right away. Pick it up and drop it. Wipe your feet down. But it doesn't matter if you can't. Just this sheer act of just pulling the tissues in, creating an arch. And actually the fact that you're struggling, if I'm struggling to pick up the ball, it actually makes me squeeze all the more harder right here. Okay? Squeeze. Flatten out as I wipe my feet. Arch and squeeze. There you go. That's good. Going from flat to arch. Flat to arch. Which is what the foot naturally has to do. Typically we hear a lot about flat feet. But don't forget, some people are stuck in high arches. And usually the problem is that we're not getting the healthy balance and are able to go in and out consistently from one leg to the other and back again. Somewhere along that line, there's usually a missing link. Because you gotta rally back and forth, and you gotta do 2 movement patterns. You gotta handle your weight against physics, gravity, and momentum. So that's a lot sometimes, okay? So that's why we always have to make sure both feet are in check, and we're doing a lot of reciprocating and alternating movement patterns, especially when we work out. Working out is basically key. Working out is basically where you build the body up. It's constant rehab. Strength is rehab. So basically the workouts is where you really want to tie it all together. That's why I go barefoot, a lot of reciprocating, alternating movements and whatnot. Last one, dry my feet off. As I'm drying my feet off, I'm actually really flattening my foot, which is good. That goes into one pattern, and then as I pick up the ball, it goes into the opposite pattern of grasping. A couple more right here. Good, cool. We shall move on. That's just kind of just basic. In fact, most physical therapy will teach you that. So let's get into some of the more important movements. Actually, now that we're kind of beyond the basics. Now, to really kind of get this arch and flattening working, we're going to integrate with toes, and we're going to really get these big toes moving. People struggle to move their big toe. Usually this whole joint right here tends to get very locked up, your big toe joint on either foot. That actually is usually a big reason of why we get plantar fascia. There's not enough spring load from that big toe joint. It makes the movement more efficient. We will go into a stretch right now, real quick. And actually, this stretch is also going to be a bit of an integrated movement for your hips. So get your towels or your padding, okay? So make sure your knee is nice and soft, okay? The back foot, you must be on your toes. You must be really hinged at that big toe joint all the way into the floor, 90 degree of this shin. If you've seen this move before, that's great. We're gonna go into it again, but this one gives you a great little Achilles stretch, plus it integrates hip loading movements. So basically, as I've said before, hips are usually a weak link, whether we're walking, running, or just general moving. This now gets that integrated with a little bit of big toe mobility. So it's a winner. You're gonna sit back on your heel, and I really want you to rotate into that pocket. Sit back as deep as you can, and extend out, all the way out. Do that one more time. Sit back on your heel. Try to touch your heel if you can. Remember that big toe is folded. Rotate into your pocket. Reach all the way through. Extend this arm. As you extend that arm, it should help lock out this hip. And then meanwhile, pull the other arm back. Sit back. Rotate into the pocket. Feel that stretch. Reach and push back. Pull back, pull back. Let's do three more. Make sure you really crank the elbow back so that we achieve maximal rotation. Sit back on the heel, fold that big toe, extend through with the hips. Last one. Right there. Good. So that should have really kind of stretched out this toe. I know it might be uncomfortable for some people who've really lost some of that mobility. Just do what you can. I'm really trying to sit back on my foot, but if you can't achieve as much mobility, just try and just get that big toe bent as much as you can. And that's why just ease into it with each one. Adjust that camera. Okay, so here we go. We'll do 7, I think. Sit back on your heel, rotate into that pocket, extend out, hold that arm back. Sit back, really feel that Achilles stretch. As you sit back, extend out. Okay, I get a little bit of quad stretch too, that's fine. You know, everyone's gonna have different areas where they're gonna feel the weakness or the discrepancy, whether it's something that's tight or where it's something that's struggling. But all in all, if you sit back on your heel, you should get that nice mobility in the feet, and then you're ultimately, as you're coming out, that glute is doing the work. The arm reaching is maximizing your upper body rotation, which is a very natural movement as we walk and run. What that's helping do here is facilitate the whole chain and really make sure that you lock your hips out. Last 2. You want full extension. Last one. And up. Good. Nice. Okay, so now that we kind of loosened up our big toe joint a bit, let's get them moving. This is a super simple one, but very neglected. So like I said, the big toe has to move. Well, first off, you gotta stretch it, all right, get it a little moving. But the next thing is, can the muscles around the big toe move? And that's where we usually count it. So here we're gonna do a nice little exercise. Sorry, I have to adjust the camera one more time because you gotta focus on my feet for this one. Okay, you're gonna need your fingers at first because sensory awareness in this area is not the best. We're gonna do big toe, little toe opposites. So at one point, at first we're gonna lift our big toes and our little toes are gonna be pressing down into the floor. Then we're gonna do the opposite. Our big toes are gonna press down into the floor and our little toes are gonna be up in the air. As you're doing that, your foot is going to either a super arch or a bit of a flatten, but obviously not all the way because you're still spreading throughout the rest of your feet. But have your fingers there just to help. If you're really advanced, you could just do it standing. But I'm gonna use my fingers here just because I wanna maximize on the range my toes are giving. So first off, we're gonna do 7 again. We'll take your index fingers, put them underneath your big toes, right? And then number one is I want your big toes to press down on their index fingers. So press down, and then we're gonna lift our big other little toes and go for that hold. Good. Now press your little fingers, little toes down, and lift your big toes up and press against your index fingers for a little support. Good. Back to the first one. Press down and extend out. Make sure you get that little toe. Make sure that little toe extends out. Make sure you got all the toes pressing down, and then, only then, lift up the big toes against a little bit of pressure. Good. Good. 3 more. Press down, extend out. Nice. Press them down, lift them up. 2 more. Press them down, extend out, hold. Press them down, lift up, hold. Last one each way. Press the big toes down, extend out. Make sure you get that little toe extending all the way out, stretching. Good. Press them down, lift them up. Nice. Ooh, so that is actually one of the better ones of really getting some good foot movement. And again, if you're controlling that big toe, you're doing your feet a lot of favors. You want to control your big toe. You do not want a stiff board in your foot. That's not going to help your feet at all. Your feet are supposed to have a very rhythmical, wavy sort of movement to them. And that's all the reason of why we want to start with the ball to release it. Because if you don't have that ability to have that freedom, they're never really going to move. Then you have to reintegrate the movement. So that's what we're going to next. So now that we've got a little bit of hips and we've done a little bit of the toes, what we're going to do, interestingly now, is actually we're going to go to take the toes out the equation. So going back to the hammer toes debate, but this also will help your plantar fascia, because if you got plantar fasciitis, you definitely want this part of your foot to sort of relax while the upper chain does the movement. So like I said, grab a yoga block, or if not, a thick textbook works. Anything where your toes can be off the edge. So here we go. What we'll do, you guys can see me fine. Yeah, it's fine right there. Okay, right. So you're going to stand on the block so that your toes are off the edge. Hopefully you can see that right now. Why are we doing that? So we cannot cheat with our toes, and our toes cannot grasp onto anything. Okay? You can support yourself on the toe of your back leg. Okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to reach back with this leg as far as we can to try and touch the floor. Okay? Reach back as far as you can. So you should hinge at the hips as I'm doing. And yeah, my toes have nothing to grasp onto. Then pick an object in front of you, or space in front of you. You're going to tap it with the foot. So I even have this chair leg right here. Boom, right there. So now I'm coming forward with this hip. I'm extending. I'm extending as far forward as I can. Nice. Reach back. Tap. Hold it for a second. Reach forward. Tap. Go back. And right now what we're trying to do is explore this hip hinge motion. So as I reach back, my chest goes forward. I'm just getting stretch at the hip. Good. The slower you go, the better. That's absolutely fine. As I come forward and I try to reach for something forward, my hip's going forward. That's pretty much going to extension. So you're taking your hip through healthy ranges. Back. Forward. And those arm reaches again, just solidify the movement even more. Arm reaches are always going to help you. They're going to help you in walking. They're going to help you in running, because we tend to not reach our arms enough. They'll help you with breathing too. Whoa. Good. Let's switch it to the other side. So again, conceptually, make sure you've got just your toes are elevated so that they're not grasping on something. If they're grasping onto the block or book, that is obviously not a good thing. We don't want that to. We do not want that to happen. So just make sure that as they're off the edge, they're not doing any work. They're free from duty. They want to kind of grasp a little bit. Just kind of wiggle around. Just check them. Make sure that they're not overly active. because we want the mid part of your foot to stabilize. We do not want your toes to stabilize. So, reach back as far as you can, reach forward. That's pretty much the movement. Reach back as far as you can, take your time with it, reach forward as far as you can. The more smooth and slow you go, the more your body will figure out and learn where it's weak. Hold, regain your balance, that's fine. Just take your time with it. And allow yourself to feel your toes are relaxed. Sometimes you have to tell yourself, relax your toes even. We'll go 3 more. Chest forward. Nice. Up. Extend. Make sure you just reach forward with this leg and reach forward with this arm. If you're leaning back slightly, that's fine. It's not a perfect, it's not going to be an ideal hip hinge here. And then we'll go last one. Reach, nose over toe, loaded in your hip. Extend forward. Good. So that's the key word right there, is loaded in your hip. We need, when we walk and move throughout our day, in general, we need more hip loading first, because if you don't load your hips, you're never going to be able to truly fire your hip, and your hip has to fire to move you. If some things at end range are very stiff, it's not going to have the best ability to move. But the more of these micro loading movements we're able to acquire through the hip, whether it's through exercise or more conscious awareness in gait when we're walking, that's going to help us ultimately contract. So important stuff right there. Okay, finishing, going on to this last little segment. Grab that card, piece of paper, card to make that little wedge. So like I said, you can use 2 pieces of paper, but a piece of card would be best. Okay, and just fold it up to your max. That creates a little wedge. Now, if you can use that, if that's all you have, use that. Let me show you the real thing. A little shout out to my guys, Mayo Detox, because they are still offering these foot wedges, which are great. Now, if you're a trainer, it's best to kind of know what you're doing with these, but you can't really mess up because all it is regressive, just regressive or progressive proprioception, basically giving you something to feel or not feel as you go through these movements. So the reason I went with a card is that obviously, if you really try, you'll be able to flatten it with your foot, but then as you really come into an arch, you'll be able to allow the card to expand. Now, that's why I said it doesn't work as well. A wedge works best. So if you have a doorstop, go grab your doorstop, but I don't think many people have doorstops these days. But that works perfectly fine. The point is, you got this angle, or angle, that you can slide into your foot and increase or decrease depending on what we need. So a person that maybe has really flat foot and can't even create an arch, you want to slide this really deep in. You're going to slide this really deep in so that you can give them an arch. Okay, so now they have a little something to sort of work with. Then as they get better, you slide out. So here's what we're going to do even. Okay, now on this first one, actually, for those of you who have towels, I would grab the towels for this first one, because this first one, we're not going to incorporate, we're not going to do up and down stretching, basically stretching the long part of your foot, because we're breaking it down into side to side and crisscross diagonal. So this first part, you want to get your towels and you want to support your big toe right there, okay? Okay? If in my case, if you have a doorstop, you can actually support your big toe like that, okay? Why? Is because we're going to step forward and hinge through like that, okay? The towels, you can just kind of fold over. We'll grab a towel, just show you. Okay? Just maybe fold it over one time. already something a little extra, okay? So that's what we're gonna do from right here, going into something similar exercise. Now we're continually working that big toe mobility, but now getting it a little more extra something to push through. So take a step forward and push all the way through to the ball of your foot. Nice. Take a step back, raise your toe up for a nice little reach. So get your little hamstring calf stretch. Step forward, step, push, hinge all the way through. Make sure you lock that out. As the main, you're reintegrating movement here, so you want to make sure you lock out. Step back, lift your toe up, reach, nice little stretch. And we'll go again. We'll go 4 of these. Step, push all the way through. Back, stretch, 2, contract. Maybe you can go a nice little arm reach again to finish off the movements. Okay? Let's switch it. Okay? I'm going to use my wedge device this time so you guys can see. Hold on. That's the problem with having 3 cameras or 3 different streams is that there you go. Right. Okay. So slight angle. Right. There. Give you guys a white surface so you guys can see what I'm doing. All right. That right there. So, step, push all the way through, reach those arms. You load it up onto the big toe joint. Step back, reach the toe up, step, and reach down for a stretch. Place it down, step, push all the way through. Gotta push through, reach those arms, nice. Take a step back, stretch. Check it away. Okay. Push through and back. So why am I doing this back and forth? Stretch to contract. Okay. Allow your body to feel it go into the depths of the stretch and then to come all the way out of it. Okay. So that way you're not just stretching, you're actually activating. And you're not just activating, you're actually taking yourself through the deepest range of the movement and then taking yourself out of it. Cool. That's pretty good right there. So that, again, more big toe up and down movement. So this is actually the more important stuff right here, I would say, because this, as you can see, I'm integrating stepping. I'm in a vertical position, so my hips and my feet are supporting the body over each leg against gravity. So kind of getting all the bones prepared to do that. And now we have a little device helping the foot go into its movement patterns, the healthy movement patterns. So that one was the big toe going up and down. Now we're going to go more the side-to-side movement plane of the foot, because that's what the foot is supposed to do. We actually pretend this is a foot, okay? As it steps, there's a little bit of a side-to-side action. It usually goes middle in first, boom, and then it will go, as it goes into an arch, the other side basically. So there needs to be good lateralization ability. Again, if we're overly lateralized, that means the feet will be, biased to one side, causing some plantar fasciitis. So that's why we want to really be able to master this side-to-side tilt. So I think we got like 1, 2, 3 more exercises left. And see, these are the big 3 or the big 4 if you include the last one I did. All of these are going to help, but I think these are the ones where we start to get real functional. And that's the key word, because you have to integrate function into your system, or else that pain or tension will never subside. Okay, so side to side. Get your wedge, be it a piece of paper or your doorstop. Or if you want to actually be proactive, go to myodetox.com and order their foot wedges. Okay, so now, again, slide it under, or I'm going to take that piece of paper, you just basically shove it underneath. Okay. We're now going to pivot over and tap somewhere. So keep your weight all on this leg, right? This leg is just going to be like a windshield washer tapping, all right? We're going to bring it over, tap our foot to the ground. This creates an arch on the standing leg. Make sure your toes are relaxed, okay? Then you're gonna slide out, tap right there, okay? This knee can bend, but all my weight is here. So I'm coming over, tap, 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 tap. I'm letting my hips open, and there is rotation here at the knee. So don't let this be stiff. Let this just be loose. Just hold your weight over this leg, but let this part be loose, and let your foot just kind of control the movement. So take it easy. Small tap, tap. You create an arch with your foot, you flatten your foot. If you can just feel those two things, that's the most important. Create the arch, flatten the foot. Then and only then, once you feel those movements, do you increase your range. So you don't need to start by doing this. No, don't even do that. Start super small, small, small. And just pay attention to your feet. That's why I said be loose here, because this is just opening, closing, and pay attention to the feet. Flat foot, arch. Flat foot, arch. That's good. We'll switch it. And even with this little paper wedge, I'm still feeling something. As you go flat foot, arch, which I said is the most important thing. You're naturally going to feel those healthy movements are naturally going to happen, and you'll start to feel the paper or arch or whatever it is that we have underneath our foot. Okay. All right, so slide in just as much. You want it just enough so you can feel what you need to feel. You want to not be able to feel it, and you want to feel it. As I come over, my foot does not feel what it's on because I'm creating an arch. Okay? As I slide out, my foot feels the object because I'm flattening my foot. Pivot over, create an arch, come off the object, slide out, flatten the object. Over, off, out, flatten onto it. Over, off, out, flatten onto it. These are micro things. You don't want to feel a whole lot. If you can feel your foot really ease off whatever it's on when you come over, great. If you can feel your foot sort of smudge onto whatever it is that it's on, great. Those little movements are going to turn into bigger ones as you practice. And as you feel those movements better and better, like I said, then start increasing the range you're reaching with your leg. But the reaches mean nothing until you are controlling the feet. We'll go 2 more. Over. Last one. Healthy movements happening all within the leg. We want to collapse, we want to go out, we want to go from side to side. That is healthy. We do not want to be locked in. That's the problem with humans. That's why we've gotten so stiff. So stiff and lately, so I'm just changing this camera because the sun glare is ruining it. So yeah, we've gotten so stiff, and that's the lack of rotation, the lack of movement, the lack of side-to-side ability makes us really stuck to one. And that's when we have the chronic pain. So the more you can control that, the better. 2 more, and then we'll be out of here and have you go enjoy your 4th of July weekend. This one we're going to work more rotational movements. So we're going to go for a nice, I like to go reach over, reach all the way behind. And now, as you can feel, we'll really kind of get that rotational movements in your ankle. Important stuff, guys, and really important stuff. If you lack rotational ability, your body will naturally stiffen up. And you might be thinking, well, why do I need rotational ability? Well, you live in a 3-dimensional world, and as much as you think going forward is the only way, you have to honor what's around you. And when your feet can't do that, they'll stiffen up. So the more we can kind of unlock this rotational ability the foot has, the better. So again, go get your device, whether it's a card wedge or an actual wedge. I'm going to stand at an angle right here. Yeah, right here, underneath. Okay, This time you're gonna go over like before, and then you're gonna go all the way, ooh, behind. Over, creates an arch, all the way behind, and that really flattens the foot and get some nice rotational movement. Over, you lock yourself out almost. Behind, you fold, fold, fold. Okay, and this is hip control now. We're starting to really have to control it. So if you're struggling with reaching behind, and you're struggling getting the shift in the hips, so let me show you from the front. If you're struggling with this shift in the hips, that's weak hip stability. Your toes are gonna be grasping. Relax your toes. Now come out of it. There you go. Come on over, relax your toes. Okay, hand on the hip, really feel that shift. Shift, reach, reach, relax your toes, reach, reach, reach. Now come out of it. Boom, and over. Good. You got a couple more of this one, okay? Behind you, reach, let your hip shift, 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 relax your toes. Your feet have got it, got you. Good, now take yourself out of it. Good, and last one, reach behind. Reach, let your hip shift, 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 relax your toes. Your feet got you, and come on out of it. Very good, let's switch it over to the other foot. There's enough happening on that one. So there's enough happening on that one, you probably more than likely felt something under your feet. So that's actually like you usually want to get to that last, but it's usually one of the easier ones to feel because, you know, there's so much going on in there. So that is one of my favorite ones, but I like to do the other progressive ones. So let's go to the other foot now. Slide your wedge in. Okay. Over. Behind, slide, relax your toes. Good. Over. Create an arch, come off that wedge. Good. And behind. Flatten your foot on the wedge. Make sure your toes are relaxed. Good. Come over. Coming off the wedge. Make sure your toes are into the ground but not grasping the ground. Nice. Reach behind. Let your foot just flatten. Flatten. Relax your toes. Good. Let your hip take yourself out of it. The more you can be on balance, the better. Reach over. Create that arch. Reach behind. Flatten that foot. Nice. We got 4 more. Really try to feel those movements in the foot on this last one. Don't worry about the reaches, worry about what the foot's doing, control that, and then maximize your reaches. Got a couple more right here. Feel that wedge, let your hip take yourself out of it. Over, create an arch, and reach, reach, reach. Nice. Very good, very good. Thank you for your patience of staying so long with me. It's great. We got one more exercise. Hopefully with that one, you've started to feel the hips a little bit more, which is a very important thing. Like I said, we need to get our hips more involved with our movement, whether it's walking, running, simple stuff. We just don't have enough hip power. We don't have enough hip propulsion. Usually our feet tend to overwork, but sometimes our quads are overworking and so are our backs. So the more we can rebalance that, the better. And the hips usually tend to be the most powerful. They give us the most leverage and a boost to go forward, side to side, wherever it is. Basically, as you've seen with these exercises, there's a lot of progression, as hopefully you've seen, of moving from lower to higher, and getting these hips a lot more reintegrated. So whether you pick an exercise that does all that, or go 1, 2, 3, 4 and go out through the series, I think the more important at the end of the day is that you're able to handle everything together. So that being said, yes, you do essentially just need the most advanced exercise and you need to master that. But I would master all the steps leading up to it. And then when you're ready, you can just do the main exercise, which is maybe one of the last ones we've done here, or this next one I'm about to do, to kind of tie everything in together and then be on your way. And as you go for your walk, you'll hopefully feel your hips a lot better, okay? So this next one, you're gonna need something to lean up against. Okay. Oh, sorry for the glare on this one. This is so bad. So we're gonna be right here. Okay, I've done this one before, but again, it's so good and it is so modified and easy and brings a lot of things together. You get some foot mobility out of it, you get some hip mobility out of it, you get some hip activation out of it, single leg activity, which is important, lots of three-dimensional movement, which is very important. And it's regressed, so you're not too balanced on one leg fighting for that, because sometimes when we just stick you on one leg, there's so much going on that the fighting of the balance will lose the good of what we're trying to get. So the fact that we're leaning against something makes it easy to balance, makes it easier for you to feel what you need to feel. And that's how, when you go about your day, hopefully you'll feel those things. As you take each step, you kind of do want to feel a little bit of hip movement. You're not pushing, you're not grasping and clenching. It should be something very rhythmical, smooth, and again, if you have enough arm reaches, you'll get that necessary rotation to sort of lock it in. But it requires a little bit of strength and activation, and hopefully some of the exercises today have done that. On to what I was about to show you. So come up to a wall, anywhere it works, okay? You're gonna lean into it, but step away from the wall, right, okay? So it's the arm's distance, but then take an extra foot, okay? Boom, then we're gonna lean into it. So we have this nice angle, leaning into the wall, shoulder stability's on because we have arms nicely locked out. And we've already got a little bit of oblique stabilizing right here. This standing foot, the inside leg, is gonna stand. Other leg, you're gonna reach back and allow yourself to fold at the hips as much as you can. And notice the foot is gonna flatten out too. Then drive that knee up and lock yourself out. Reach back, reach back, reach back. Drive, lock yourself out. Okay. Reach back, fold at the hips, flatten the foot. Lock yourself out, drive that knee forward. Good, we'll go 4 more. Back, fold at the hips, drive, pull that elbow back. Reach the arm forward, reach that leg back, flatten the foot. Drive, should really feel your hip on this one. Last 2, fold the hips. Drive, last one. Make sure your toes are relaxed. And up, okay? Very good hip motion with a little bit of rotational awareness. Your foot is stretching, but it has a little bit of arch action, but it's not, in this case, it's not doing much because we are in a state of rest against the wall. So, where you guys can see me. Okay, right there. Okay. Right there. All right. So leaning into the wall, so step away from the wall, and then lean into it. Okay. So you should be at an angle. Reach back with your foot, fold at the hips, drive that knee up, lock out. I'm leaning into the wall the whole time, so I'm at a slight angle. Reach back, fold at the hips, flatten your foot, relax your toes, drive yourself out of it, lock out. Slower the better. The more you take your time, the more you'll feel things. The more you'll feel things, the more you'll be conscious of them when you do it in real life. So maybe 1 set quality is better than 3 sets rushing through it. Fold at the hips. I reach forward with the arm to really help myself kind of load that leg back. Bring it up. We'll go 3 more. Back, and then we'll be done. Drive up. 2 more. Reach back. Load at the hips. Up. Last one. Get burned through it. Reach back, fold at the hips, load the hips. Drive and lock out. There we go. Very good stuff. So, wow, that's kind of pretty much takes me through most of today. And you know what, I'm gonna keep today, you know, a little bit on the shorter side because it's 4th of July and should people want to get out. And you don't necessarily want to overly do it. It's just the feet. I mean, that's a few good things right there. Like what we did 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, about 8 or so things. You could probably even just do 5. If you're suffering from foot problems, you know, you should stay consistent. But even then, you know, 5 or so, just to sort of ready the system, get the pattern going, and then you can go about your day. But remember what I said: activity. Try to do more barefoot activities. Okay. Try to work out as much as you can without shoes on. I always lift with just socks on. I mean, I couldn't imagine I couldn't imagine doing other non-weightlifting workouts, you know, home workouts. Obviously, all of that should be barefoot, you know. So I mean, the only argument is if, you know, if you're doing some kind of you know, jogging, obviously, yeah, and then maybe certain weightlifters, you know, you need shoes for your weightlifting, fine. But then as much as you can, just as much as you can, just be barefoot is what you want to do. And because we don't have enough of that. We're not in that situation where we're barefoot and reacting to the ground, feeling the ground. That being said, go enjoy your weekend. Go outside, go feel the sand, feel the grass, whatever it is, feel the dirt, reconnect with nature. Your feet will thank you. But more importantly, just keep up with the movement, keep up with exercises, reintegrating the body, because the body is always dying for more integration. That is why we usually stiffen up and lock ourselves up. It's because we're usually stuck in one way and we're not getting enough of what we need. So that's what I'm here to help you with. Please leave me any comments, questions that you might have, or things you want me to go over in the future. Hope to be more consistent with these workshops, and hopefully they help and bring you out of the pain and give you the healthy, functional tips that you need to stay out of pain, stay away from hospitals and pain meds and all that stuff. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Big Mish Movement. And again, leave me any things that you want to know, and I might do the session on that next time or answer the questions in the next video. Bye for now. Take care.